Alrighty, hey yo, what is up, Knights? Just Rick here, bringing you guys part 3 of the what to do at the level cap of level 100. Now guys, I'm just going to warn you guys, this is my second time recording this video, and let me tell you, it was tragic the way I lost my first video, but you know, that video was going to be like mega long. I spent a lot of time showing off content, and instead of this video, we're going to be spending a lot of time in town, so I can just explain the content, and you guys can check it out for yourself instead of me trying to demonstrate everything. But guys, at this point in time, you guys can see I have a partial legendary set, some partial upgraded set. Again, like we mentioned in the last video, essentially if you have the old best in slot gear, the legendaries are about the same level of gear. So if you have a full legendary set, that's basically where I expect you guys to be at this point in time. Now you guys will also notice that I am max level as well, and when you get to max level, you'll get a awakening quest for your class, which will give you access to these awakening skills, and you want to pick up all of them. Generally, you want to select your second awakening to be buffed up by this Neo awakening, because it can increase its damage by 20%. And at this point in time, guys, you guys are going to be incredibly powerful due to the level 100 passives and the gear that you have. And at this point in time, I think you guys have basically unlocked the game. You can do basically anything in the game. You can even do Oculus. Now I'm going to mention right now, I will not be talking about Oculus in this video, but this is the bare minimum for Oculus. I'm going to say basically if you're in this gear, you're not really ready for it, and there's a lot more important stuff to focus on. So yes, Oculus is the goal right now since it's the highest in-game content that we have, but don't focus on it because there's so much more important stuff to talk about, which is going to be the subject of this video. So let's go ahead. Now, first and foremost, guys, we're going to be talking to Dorothy, and she'll actually have a quest. I've already done it, but she'll have a quest to unlock you access to the most important content 100 cap. I don't care who you are, what gear you have, or whatever you have. These two dungeons right here, the Black Shrine and the Basin of Pain, do them every day. If Expert is too hard, because Expert does have a higher drop chance of Epic and Mythics, but if it's too hard, then jump it down to normal. But either case, run it on normal, run it on Expert, run it at least 2 times for each dungeon. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate them. I've done that in my account dailies video if you guys want to see them. But the reason that you run these dungeons is because they have a chance of dropping epics and mythics. You actually have 2 chances. You have 1 chance from the final boss clear, and then you have a chance if you have these special rewards. These 2 times a day, you have a chance from getting it from the dungeon clearance as well. Now, notice what I said there. These special rewards right here only apply to the dungeon clearance. So all of these like black crystals as well as the chance of the epic item, those are exclusive only for these 2 clears. However, you can keep running these, and the bosses do every single time you kill them have a chance of dropping a 100 epic as well. It is very, very cool. It doesn't cost you anything but FP to go into here, and it is a viable opportunity for you to get epics without having to spend any of the time guide stones, which we're going to be talking about a lot in this video, but you won't have to farm hell modes. It just costs FP to go into here, and of the 2, Black Shrine is the best one to farm. In fact, I would suggest this dungeon not only for epics directly, but as well as a minor, not as efficient place for farming time guide stones as well as ALite. So this is not a bad place for farming money and epics directly. I think this is an amazing dungeon to farm when you're at the end game. Now, speaking about the time guide stone, okay, they are very important to talk about. The next, basically the main reason that I had to make this video is because although we have this very strong set of gear, we don't have the best in slot gear. This is just kind of preparing us to get the best in slot gear, and the best in slot gear is farmed in the Guide of Wisdom. Now guys, the Guide of Wisdom is accessed here in the L Rocks. Now if you don't have access to the Guide of Wisdom, or if you haven't done it yet, you basically have access to both of these dungeons, the Guide of Wisdom and the Stormy route, but you'll have to do an episode quest. If you look at your quest, you'll have an episode quest, and you actually had access to this at level 96. Very short, you know, just a couple dungeons here and there. Very short episode quest, which will unlock both dungeons separately. So Guide of Wisdom as well as the Stormy route have to be unlocked, but once you do, you have access to very useful dungeons. Now I'm going to be going into the Guide of Wisdom. You guys can see it does cost us the time guide stone, which is an item that we're going to be seeing a lot of in this video, like I mentioned, but you guys can see running on Expert will actually give us more of this wisdom crystal fragment, but if you're not strong enough, or if you're noticing your clear times are not very great in Expert, then you can bump it down to normal. I am going to jump into here just to show you guys really quick. There is one cool little thing in here. There's this NPC right here where if you open it, you get access to this little UI. And once you put epics into here, what's going to happen is that if an epic shows up or is about to drop from your epic wish list, which that is what that is, it's just a little mini wish list. If an epic drops from this orb right here, which is the whole purpose, you spawn these guys here, mini boss spawns, and the final boss spawns, the orb changes color based on what is actually going to drop out of the orb. And sometimes when if it's a wishlist epic, it will be a rainbow color, in which case you get to be hyped because you know whatever epic drops out of there is going to be a wishlist epic. So that's kind of the only reason. And you guys can see how easy this dungeon is. You know, it's not something that I really have to explain. It's a 20-second dungeon, but it is very costly, both in terms of FP as well as this item right here, the Time Guide Stone. And we're going to need it, a lot of them to run it. You guys can see right here, it normally costs 18. I'm actually getting a 2 reduction because I have VIP, but essentially, you know, run normal or expert, doesn't matter. We're farming this, however, for the level 100 epic equipment. And you guys can see I've already kind of done that partially with this character, and I've kind of replaced a lot of what I had. You know, I used to have, you know, super taste set as well as a bunch of legendaries, and now you guys can see I have much stronger gear just by putting, you know, I have a 3-piece set here with the Strange Fate set. I got a 2-piece set right here. Clicking this button right here will show you easily what sets you have. And then I have a lot of random off epics just kind of thrown in there. And I know this is stronger than my legendary set. How do I know? Well, there's this very awesome post on Reddit that actually has a calculator, a very amazing tool. It's a calculator that lets you calculate how much stronger you will be by putting into the calculator all the epics that you have accumulated so far, and then it will try to calculate what is the best set. And this is what the thing told me. It told me to put this gear on and you're going to be a lot stronger than whatever setup I had previously. So it's a very amazing tool, especially when you start racking up a lot of epics. You don't know, you're like, dude, I can do a 3 set here, 2 set there, who knows? Well, the calculator knows, and it is such an awesome tool. I love it. And it's also a great way to track what epics you need still. You know, it's just a really cool tool, and I'm using it right now, and this right here is a lot stronger than the legendary. So that's kind of the point, guys. I mean, if you want to know the goal of 100 cap, this is it. This is the goal of 100 cap, is to get 100 epics, start making sets as you can, and slowly building up that repertoire. But it's very hard to do that because you're limited by both your FP as well as your Time Guide stones. So for the rest of this video, we're going to talk about methods to getting us Time Guide stones. Now, first and foremost, we already kind of talked about it, and that is the Stormy route. Now, the Stormy route is an interesting dungeon that I haven't shown off yet, so I will show it off just one run really quick. This is a very quick dungeon, but you have to be relatively geared to farm it. In fact, the legendary would probably be a very low level of gear for this dungeon, but once you start getting a few epics, I think this dungeon becomes extremely efficient because it has a really high chance of dropping Time Guide stones as well as hLater. So this dungeon can be farmed both for the Time Guide stones directly because there's a lot of bosses and mini bosses that drop it, and then you have this chance right here, which is kind of random. I don't know what the percentage is, but this is a random encounter with this demon Prion here, who has a chance of dropping just a ton of Time Guide stones directly. You guys can see here, he just dropped 20 straight up. And that is a random boss. I want to say maybe it happens 20% of the time or something like that. Could be wrong. But you guys can see the dungeon clearance gives a little bit of gold. You do get some Time Guide stones directly. We get hLater. This is just a great place to farm. If you're strong enough and you can do it quickly, then this is a great place to farm. This is basically end game content farming for both money and Time Guide stones. It's a very consistent method, especially when you got gear. And if you don't have any Time Guide stones left and you're trying to build up another stockpile of them, then that's not a bad place to farm it, and I think it's a good place for money as well. Essentially, when we talk about level 100 content, I think that is one of 2 places that we can consider farming your FP in. Stormy route is for Time Guide stones as well as hLater, and we kind of already talked about it, but going back over to 2+2, another thing that you could use your FP on at the end game and farm Time Guide stones as well as hLater directly. Not as consistent, but the Black Shrine on the highest difficulty that you can is a great place to farm it, because again, you got to treat this kind of like hell mode. You know, this is why it's so important to run these dungeons, because these are essentially hell mode, because the boss can drop the epic directly. So instead of trying to get the Time Guide stones and get a stockpile of that, you can just straight up get epics from the bosses. So, you know, it's just, you know, this is a little bit more risky. You don't have as many mini bosses, so you don't get as many Time Guide stones or hLater, but you have that awesome chance of getting that epic, which might make it worth it. So of those 2 dungeons, I say you decide which one you want to do. If you want to be more consistent, do the Stormy Ridge, and if you just want to get epics directly, farm that right there, the Black Shrine. and use your whole FP bar there, because that is an awesome option as well. Alrighty guys, we are currently in Hindenmere right now, and I'm gonna go visit an NPC, because if we're being honest with ourselves, farming the time guide stones directly is just going to be vastly inefficient when compared to this NPC right here. Magar Rosenbach, if you check his shop, he has a lot of various means of converting some of your old materials, such as demon invitations, rift sensor stones, as well as the epic souls, into time guide stones. You guys can see I have a bunch of demon invitations on this character. I can convert them really quickly to time guide stones if I want. I also have some of these rift sensor stones right here. If you have any left over from the previous cap, you can transfer them. And most importantly, what you're probably going to be using the most is the epic soul transfer, which actually transfers at a rate of 1 to 20. So it's actually a very good exchange rate. This is the most efficient. Although I do want to mention the demon invitations really quick, because there's a lot of methods still in the game that are kind of from a relic of an old age of DFO that can still be abused to get time guide stones in this way. So let me talk about those really quick. With the demon invitations. Alright, first and foremost, if we go and click on the Elven Guard teleportation here, this NPC Toby right here is selling us 3 demon invitation box for 10 carnelian each. Now you can't get carnelian anymore, but if you have a stockpile of them from before 100 cap when we used to get those, that is a great way to get them. You guys can see I'm making my way into the guild hideout, which you only have access to if you're in a guild. And the reason that you want to do that is if you're in a guild, you every week will get a certain amount of contribution, which you can use your contribution then to purchase demon invitation boxes, which that's 60 demon invitations right there. A very quick and easy way, especially considering the fact that you don't even have to do any content. You just have to be in a guild to get demon invitations. One other outdated method as well as we make our way over to the Anton area, the Noble Sky area. This is also really only related to people who did Anton Raid back in the day, but there is this Fateful Determination shop, which you guys see I'm already out. Check this NPC shop if you used to play during Anton days, because you can get a ton of demon invitations that way, and this NPC Tammy right here is selling it. I will also mention that this is a great place to farm. You know, you still want to do Anton content for these beads right here, the Noble Sky beads for your crit, because as we mentioned in the second video, crit is something that's going to be very scarce when we upgrade into level 100 epic gear, and this is a great place to farm it. So you're still going to need to get, you know, I'll probably want to pick up some of these Bijou beads, because you're going to want this crit on your character, because it's going to be very scarce. So farm Anton still nowadays, as well as pick up the demon invitation box if you can. Now if we make our way over here to the west coast at Joa Ferrero, we enter his dungeons. You guys see we do have access to weekly dungeons, and this dungeon right here, the Underground Castle, is a great way to farm demon invitations. It's actually very, very efficient. You get 3 times entry a week into this dungeon. You can get a ton of DI there. You can also get, you know, souls as well as powerful energy if you need them. But in terms of demon invitations, great and efficient place to farm DI to transfer into time stones. But anyway guys, if you do that, you're going to end up with a couple hundred DI, which you can then use to transfer into these time guide stones. Now before you go ahead and transfer these over, I do want to mention one thing, because I know the comments will come rolling in otherwise. You can use these demon invitations normally. You can just go ahead and do like a low level hell mode at level 70 cap or level 80 cap and try to get epic souls directly. Essentially, because the exchange rate is 1 time guide stone to 20 DI, you're wagering that, okay, if I spend 400 DI, I'm hoping to get more than 2 epics in 400 DI. And if you do, it's going to be a lot more efficient than if you were to just trade them directly like this. Personally, if you ask me, I don't think it's worth the time or the effort. You know, it's going to cost you a lot of FP, and it's going to cost you a lot of time to try and farm epic souls like that. And I think it's just easier to make that conversion. I'm going to take the hit on the conversion. I need the FP. FP is a lot more valuable nowadays, especially with all the content we got to do. I just like trading them in, but just know it is an option if you are feeling diligent enough and you have a lot of DI. Maybe you want to run regular hell modes and try to get epic souls that way, because the next thing we're going to be talking about is all the ways that you can get epic souls. And this is without a doubt the most efficient way to get time guide stones. And there are a lot of very efficient methods to get epic souls. First and foremost, the most efficient way that you can get epic souls is actually from the raid shop. You guys can see right here, we need this item Undaunted Determination, and we can get up to 4,000 Undaunted Determination a week, which will get us just enough to get the weekly 40 that we can get. So that's 40 epic souls that we can get every single week, simply by doing raid. You actually get Undaunted Determination by doing raids. So if we change the channel and go to the raid channel, we actually have 2 raids currently, Fiend War and Prey. And with your level of gear, if you're in legendary gear, you're essentially over geared for both of those raids. You're gonna make short absolutely short work of all of those raids. Now I do want to mention, you still got to know how the raid works. So if you have never done Fiend War or Prey Raid, for the love of God, please do guide mode solo first. I've joined a lot of parties where people are just jumping into this raid content, and if you don't know what's going on, I don't care how geared you are, you can just sandbag and kill everyone if you just don't know what's going on. So for the love of Pete, please do guide mode solo mode if you've never done this raid. You're still going to get rewarded in Undaunted Determination, in which case once you get 100 of them you can buy an epic soul directly, which I haven't done very many this week. In fact, I've been slacking a lot, but that's just a great way. And because everybody's so overgeared now, getting 40 epic souls by just doing raids is something that's easy enough to do on a lot of different characters. If you farm a lot of different characters in legendary sets, you're going to be strong enough to do that. So just like I mentioned in the last video, if one of your characters is close, like this guy is very close to getting his super Tabor set, you know, I just need to maybe do one more raid and he's going to be full super Tay. Yeah, finish your super Tabor set or finish your prey accessories or prey weapon by doing prey raid if you're close. Otherwise, you know, the only real reason you're doing this is for some optimization with some of the cards that drop from this raid, as well as the Undaunted Determination, because again, epic souls are valuable. Alrighty guys, but we are back at level 95 Harlem content, and we're gonna make our way over to Harlem area over here. And the reason I'm over here is to talk about one of the things that I've been showing off on the stream a ton, and that is Donning Crevice. Okay, the Donning Crevice is by far one of the most important things to do. I mean, I'm not going to say it's, you know, as important as 2+2, but I'm going to be putting them on the same level, because, you know, the items that you get out of here are not going to be useful in terms of gearing, but they're going to be useful in terms of getting you epic souls. Okay, this is one of the most efficient places. This is the most efficient place to farm epic souls, hands down. Okay, you guys can see right here. Very, very easy dungeon. We have access to this dungeon 2 times a day, and you know, because we are so geared over leveled, this is the reason why. I mean, it's dropping epics. That's an epic soul directly, and even if an epic didn't drop right there and I wasn't lucky enough to get it, you can basically open up this chest right here and get aberrant crystals, which aberrant crystals, once you get 500 of them, can be converted into an epic soul. And you guys can see right here, I have a little bit more than 2,400 of these. Every 500 of that is considered an epic by the crafting system. So not only can you get epics to drop out right from the boss right there, but you can also just craft epics if you're not lucky enough to get one to drop. I mean, this is so efficient. I mean, it's not rocket science here, guys. This is so easy to do. It doesn't cost you any material. It just costs you FP, and hell, it doesn't even cost you any time. I mean, this is one of the fastest dungeons that you can farm in this game, and it's just a no-brainer. You know, right here I didn't get any epic to drop, but I got a whole bunch of aberrant fragments, and I got, you know, some aberrant crystals, and 2 times a day. This is a no-brainer run. I'm going to run this at the same time as I run 2+2. I'm going to drop down here and go into Harlem. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that, okay, so I get an epic soul directly right here, but on top of that, if that epic was cursed, we already talked about it, you know, we can transfer the curse or any enchantments of my gear onto any other level 100 cap gear. So any 95 epics, like that one that just dropped right there, if it was cursed, I can transfer that to any other 100 epic simply by use of the engraving system. So yet another reason why you want to do that content. And I have this legendary to show how this kind of works. Essentially, if we go to the Strawberry Nose Della NPC right here, I'm going to turn in all of my aberrant crystals that I have, so you guys can see I have 2,500 of them. Every epic recipe right here is going to cost me 500, so essentially that's 5 epic souls. This is a recipe to craft an epic, so we will need a legendary to use as a catalyst. So you guys see I have a legendary here to showcase right here. I'm going to need some of these items right here. These are basically just the price of admission. I need 20 paving stones and spirit hardeners, 20 of those, 10 of these. Now they're not superior version. We can make them superior by going to the retexturize feature right here, and she is an NPC that actually can do that for us. So essentially right there, she gave us all the items that we needed, and then I just used this recipe to convert my legendary into an epic, and just like that, I used 500 crystals to make myself and craft a level 95 epic. Just as easy as that, and I can do that for 4 other epics. It doesn't matter what they are, and all I need is a legendary to do that, and I disassemble it, and easy as that, I can get an epic soul that way. Now, as you saw right there, I had a legendary to use. I no longer have any legendaries, but I can get legendaries at the NPC Timothy, but I will have to farm some of these metals to get them. So you guys can see right here, I can use 400 metals to buy a sub equipment, and then, you know, it doesn't really matter which one I get right there. Now I have a legendary to use in this system. Now, it's as easy as that. You get a legendary, upgrade into epic, and then you can use that epic, either take the stats off of it if it's cursed, for instance. Like if it's cursed like this gear and it was a level 95 epic, I can just transfer it to a level 100 by using the engravement system, or I can just disassemble it and get the soul that way. So it is a very efficient means of farming that. I will also mention that yes, you will need some Emblem of Heroes to get the legendaries, and you farm Emblem of Heroes not in Dawn and Crevice, but instead in Assault mode. So I've shown this content off a lot in my level 95 content series, the DFO charge series. I've shown this content a lot. Essentially, it is a great place to farm legendaries, and the cool thing is the boss also has a chance of dropping the legendary, which in itself can be cursed. And like I keep mentioning, that curse can be transferred to level 100 cap epic if you want. So yet 2 dungeons I think are viable here in 100 cap, not for the gear itself, but really what the gear can provide. It can provide amplification as well as some epic souls. It's just an amazing way to do it, and it doesn't take a lot of thought to see why I'm still doing that on all of my characters on my account. I mean, yes, 2 times a day is not very much, but when you have 50 characters that have 2 times a day and it doesn't cost any entries to go in, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Do it every day for all of your characters that are strong enough to do it. Alrighty guys, the last thing I want to talk about is the money farming, and as well as the card farming as well. They're kind of intertwined. You're going to need a lot of money to get cards, and if you don't need the cards, at least you can sell them for a lot of money. So we're going to need those cards basically to enchant and optimize our gear. So this is not an optional step, and it is a very expensive step, but there's a lot of things that are going to help us out in that manner. First and foremost, I already talked about the money situation. Okay, the Stormy route is a very efficient place to get a lot of money if you're strong enough to do it, or if you're not really focused too much on the money and you just kind of want to progress your character in gear and get money on the side. Again, we already mentioned it, but the go back to Chesttown right here, the Black Shrine dungeon is a great place to farm to get also a chance of getting 100 epics. But if you're not feeling both of those dungeons and you're not feeling very strong, the last option is to actually go back to some of the older content back in Pandemonium and go back to the Harlem content, because that content back over here, what we can do is actually this dungeon right here. Unfortunately, all the dungeons once you get to level 100 actually get nerfed in terms of their drop chance, so you won't be getting a lot of money by farming this. But one that is still efficient is Disaster Sector 3, also shortened for DS3. It's just the disaster sector here at level 3 stars. And you guys can see here the fatigue requirement of going into here is 8, as well as the cost per room is 3. So I'm not going to be going in there, but just know that that is an option. You will be burning through all of your FP. It is one of the most FP inefficient dungeons in the game, but as a return, you will be getting a lot of Terranium as a reward. And that Terranium is something that can be utilized at the NPC to get a lot of different items. If we go to the Pumpkin Ball NPC, for instance, you can sell the Terranium. I think you can sell up to 80 a day, I think. And that goes for quite a bit of gold if you have 80 Terranium. You can also exchange them for the Pentacles, which you can exchange for card albums or Pandemonium card albums. If you have a lot of Terranium, which you will have if you farm a lot of DS3, those are some good options to buy at the NPC. Data Chip and Magtonium are not very useful anymore, if at all. So if you're not too privy on that, or if you've already bought those items right there, we do also have these items up here that are more value oriented, I think. You can also sell your Terranium at this NPC right here. And then finally, you can see right there, I've already purchased it myself, the Essence of the Rift right there with 5 Terranium and the Vestige of Hope for 5 more refined Terranium are great items to pick up, mostly because of the amplification system that we have now in the game. In fact, they're very, very valuable right now. In fact, I think they're a little bit too overpriced right now. I think people may assume that a lot of people don't know about this feature, but you can still get Essence of the Rift here at this NPC and Vestige of Hope both at this NPC. And those are all items that are related to the amplification system at hLater, which kind of leads me to believe that I need to make a guide on that, because the amplification system is a very complicated system with a lot of important parts you might not know about. So maybe next guide somewhere down the line, but that's where you go to the NPC. And if you don't need those items yourself, then you can at least sell them to the auction hall, and people need them right now. Now, alrighty guys, the last thing I want to mention is related to some of the old content that we already went through. Okay, we are back at the Ghent Palace. Now this is where we farmed our level 100 uniques at the start of this series, and I did kind of gloss over it, but you guys can see here the armor, accessory, sub equipment. If you go to the other tab right here, you can actually purchase Ghent Palace cards for 1400 tokens. And like I said, the tokens are very easy to farm. You guys can see I've done it for the past couple days and I've already gotten 20,000 of these. And you can only purchase 2 card albums a week, but these cards are fucking tight, man. They are really good for what they do. You know, they're not the best in slot, but they definitely provide awesome stats. You guys see here, great earring card, you know, that's almost as good as a loot card. Great accessory card right here for elemental damage. You know, we're getting great cards out of this. A Magic Stone card, an amazing one. You have to upgrade it a little bit. Grimseeker, great physical attack card. I mean, any card that you get out of this card album is going to be usable, very usable in this cap, and much better than most cards that you can get at this point in time. So pick up this card album 2 times a week. Use them yourself or sell them for gold because they're going for quite a bit. But what's even more important, but it's going to be a lot harder to farm, guys, is the Chest Town NPC. So if we go back to where we picked up our level 100 legendaries, guys can see here in much the same vein, you know, we have access to the accessories, sub-equipment, armor, and weapon. But then if we go to the other tab, we have access 1 time a week to spend 2,400 extinction crystals to get this chest album, which is going to give you a very useful card. Essentially, it's the same thing, except it's more of the unique grade cards, and you guys can see how useful these cards are right here. I don't even have any yet, but you can get physical attack, best in slot weapon cards. You know, these you don't get weapon cards as strong. They are almost all of them right here are going to be very, very useful for you. Unfortunately, the ones I did get were not that great, but you guys can see a great Magic Stone card, 18 elemental damage right here. All of these cards are going to be really useful. So yes, this is a very hard grind. It's twice as long as any one piece. It's going to take you 4 days to get this directly, and you're going to need to farm 80 runs of these dungeons before you can buy even one, but you need to do it. Those 80 runs might be worth it. It's hard to say right now, but I think those 80 runs might be worth it for some of the cards that you get. They are very, very valuable, cost a lot of mil. So I do think this chest is worth to pick up if you're strong enough to do it and if you're diligent enough. I know that I'm not going to be able to do it every week, but there might be some weeks where I'm going in and just bringing my strongest characters and running those 80 times. But I do think that card album is really worth it, especially when you consider some of them are best in slot options. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. That is about everything I want to say about 100 cap. I know there might have been a lot of stuff I missed. Please leave comments below if you think I missed anything that's super important. There is some stuff, you know, that I don't think I have the time to explain in a guide series like this. I'll probably make its own dedicated guide video. Like, for instance, I want to talk about the amplification system, because with the inheritance system, as well as the engraving system, there's a lot of like nuances that you can get to just get a whole bunch of amped gear if you want it. You know, if you want amped gear like this, you know, I have my whole armor set is basically amped up. You know, if you want to get access to that, you're going to have to abuse a lot of features in the game that it can get really confusing. There's a lot of moving parts there, and you know, I want to make a guide series. Maybe that might be the next guide series you see here, talking about the amplification system and how to abuse it here in 100 cap. But until then, guys, I think that's all I want to talk about it for newbies. You'll notice I didn't talk about the Oculus at all in this guide series. And I think once you start getting epics like I have right here, you're going to be perfectly fine to do that content on your own and learn about how to do that one, because it's brand new and it's kind of fun to do. So hopefully you guys keep sticking with DFO, keep sticking with the hell grind, and keep optimizing your characters. And soon enough, guys, you'll be doing basically anything this game has to offer in a pretty short fashion. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope this guide was helpful, and I'll catch you nights later.